Hello everybody, welcome back to Exploring the Black Country today. Back out, it's actually the start of proper winter now. We've got a bit of a misty mornings just over there because of the mist lurking over the bungalow. But where we're heading today is actually the BCN mainline. We are going to be travelling towards the Wolverhampton section, covering Coseley, and just a bit further up to there is some interesting stuff. So let's get to the BCN mainline and we'll resume just at the other end of the canal, about 1.7 miles down there. Right, here we am, I've made it. Where the trains go past on the BCN main line now. As you may remember, I've been down that section before. Takes you all the way down to West Bromwich, down onto there by Chance's Glassworks, covered the old line, covered this line here, the Birmingham new line which we're on. But this line's the most interesting one because it goes all the way to Wolverhampton on this side. So it is pretty much a distance around about, can't see it from here, 6 or 7 miles away from here at the moment. You've got to go through to Coseley. Once you're through the tunnel, it doesn't take long to get to there. So let's go and head down that section and go ahead to Coseley Tunnel. So here we are, this is actually the Wolverhampton branch all the way up to Coseley now. So we're just going to be coming past Dudley Port at a minute, just by the side. So this is actually the back end of Dudley Port from where I was on that other video, onto this stretch, because there is another stretch from by Netherton Tunnel that does actually go all the way around, and that was actually a really quite nice route. I really enjoyed it. There's much history down there as well, and like down here there is like little bits and pieces that I actually want to show you. Like there is some old dates on bridges which date back quite a bit, and we'll have a look at the history of like the Coseley area for the tunnel, and then we'll go back over some more history because I did go back for that in the very old video, but we'll recap it today. And we'll just show you some cinematics down onto here. So it is a longer route actually compared to the other one behind, what I've done to West Bromwich. Did it as a trial run and I actually managed to make it, so I might have to pedal just a bit on the way to save the electric from coming back, but it is doable on this bike what I've got. But let's keep going. Just Dudley Port, just right on the corner now. So here we are. I think this is actually Dudley Port, yes it is, and the canal actually runs from the top up to here above the road, which is quite cool actually. Look at this when I go down, you've got the main road just there, look, and you've got the Dudley Port station, the sign just right the way there, just behind that other side, look. And over the other side of there, if you go down and turn right, that will actually take you to Sheepwash Nature Reserve on the road on the right. So that's actually what I've covered before as well. A lot of nature around. I've seen some birds of prey as well, and a couple of herons just behind me. So you do get quite a lot down this canal line. I do really like it. But let's go straight in front. There is some very old bridges just right the way down the bottom. So what I'm looking at right now, this is really quite interesting. You can just see there's a bit of a brick wall, but what's underneath us actually? Let's go and take a look. I'll park my bike up onto the corner. So it's good to show you some like extras down this canal line. But just right below, you can actually see the extension line to the Wednesbury to Brother Hill tram line extension. Now this here would have gone all the way to Dudley through that Dudley tunnel. But you can just see right there. Now the other side where I was in the other video, that's actually where this actually joins up to. So there will be another bridge on the other side over there, joining under the canal. So you can just see down there, look at the bottom of here. It's just a big mud trap now. I believe there would have been like some very old track originally onto there from the very old train line. But it's nice to see. I mean, that side there is a bit raised, so I don't get what's going on there. Whether it's just to support the other rail line what's on the other side of here, because that goes all the way to Wolverhampton as well, so it joins up along the canal all the way basically. But yeah, let's go and head on and see if I can show you this bridge just right in front. So it is very cold out here. As I said at the start of the video, we've come into the proper winter months now, and going through Netherton Tunnel it was really foggy a little bit, so I couldn't see on some certain sections, so you've got to expect it this time of year. And winter, to be honest, is actually one of my favourites to come out and film, because it's a different environment. I mean, the leaves have all been lost in the trees now, so it's nice to see the distance, and you can see some extras like buildings sometimes when you're along the canal line. I've seen some abandoned ones down onto it, old industry, and that's actually going up to the Wolverhampton section. So if I can make that today, that'll be a bonus for the video. But look at the view of that though, just absolutely one straight line all the way from down there. I mean, I've been going straight, there's been no bends or nothing going round, but I think it does turn round in a bit. Really straight line this. Imagine walking this all the way from West Bromwich all the way to Wolverhampton. Wow, that would just absolutely kill your legs, because it's quite a bit of mileage this is. But look at that, it is a nice canal, it is really clear as well. Clear all the way to Wolverhampton last time I ever come down to do the trip. But wow, I do love it. This is actually one of my favourite sections. So right, this is actually Watery Lane Bridge. You can just see it is a new bridge built on top of a very old bridge, possibly, because if I just zoom in, you can just see there is like a little bit of an island thing there. Looks similar to Dunkirk, but looking at that, was that actually a bridge support there, and that supported a very old bridge going from one side to the other. I always thought that every time I come down this section to whether there was an old bridge, but just right in front there is a really old one saying BCN, and there's a date on there, so go and take a look at that one. So right, here we go, there it is, BCN 1880, so you can just see how far this canal really dates back. The Birmingham Canal was actually used back in the old days to transport goods all the way across, coal, steel, chains, you name it, they would have took it across the canal line, even clothes. And it was all done by horse, because you can just see there is two sections on each side, there's one over there and one there. Now Thomas Telford, who was the engineers and kind of stuff like that, organised the route to go straight through to Coseley, and I will explain more information as I get down to the Coseley tunnel and why it was actually built like the way it was. But it's nice to see the two towpaths on each side, and originally those would have been used for the horses, that's why they're here today. That's why there's actually two on each side, because Thomas Telford surveyed the canal, I believe from my own knowledge, and two sides were put on to relieve the congestion from one side to the other. So it allows for two barges to go up and down on each side. That's why it's actually really quite wide as well on the BCN main line, as you can just see right behind me. So right, just a screenshot of like a little map, what actually shows you the canal from Aldersley Junction, Staffordshire and Worcestershire Canal. So it's from Wolverhampton bottom, and it comes all the way down towards the West Bromwich section, Tipton, Dudley Tunnel, Netherton Tunnel. So there is all the split off sections down onto there. They will go down to Spon Lane, Smethwick, then all the way to Birmingham. The route is really quite long by looking at it, as you can just see from the two screenshots what I showed you, how many routes and off sections there is off the canal line. It's really amazing. And just looking at the one we're on now, so it does say here, over the next 30 years, as more canal branches were built or connected, it became necessary to review the long, winding, narrow old main line. With a single towpath, boats passing in opposite directions had to negotiate their horses and ropes. As traffic grew, the locks at Smethwick Summit were still construction. In 1824, Thomas Telford, as I mentioned, was commissioned to examine alternatives. So I did mention this before, he actually reported little more than a crooked ditch, with scarcely the appearance of a towing path, the horses frequently siding and staggering in the water, the hauling line sweeping the gravel into the canal, and the entanglement at the meeting of boats being incessant. Whilst at the locks, each end of the summit at Smethwick, crowds of boatmen were always quarrelling, offering premiums for the preference of the passage. So it says there, the mine owners injured by the delay were loud in their complaints. So you can just see a bit of information of the BCN main line right there. So Thomas Telford proposed major changes to the section between Birmingham and Smethwick, widening and straightening the canal, providing towpaths on each side. That is actually why there is actually towpaths on each side at the start, like I mentioned, because it was actually used for the horses back in the past. So just looking right the way down, his suggestions were accepted and appointed chief engineer on the 28th of June 1824. So you can just see the canal really does date back beyond 1880, what's on the bridge right here. So it does go into a bit more information, and he says there the Galton Bridge one is the one I'm going to be covering in 2023 all the way to Birmingham. So it just said there Thomas Telford designed the cast iron bridge, the Galton Bridge, the Spanish cutting. It was cast in the Horsey Ironworks and was the engine arm aqueduct and many of the wide roving bridges. Now many of these bridges down on the BCN mainline, I don't know about this section to Wolverhampton, were actually made at the Horsey Company in Tipton, which is just literally just right behind me somewhere down the road. It isn't really too far, so I've just come out of Tipton. But yeah, interesting route, I really do love it. But let's go and journey on. We'll go and head now to Coseley tunnel section. So this next one that I'm at is actually Tipton Station Bridge, which I did mention that was actually coming out of Tipton. So it's right here. So basically the Horsey Ironworks are definitely somewhere nearby. So if you want to drop comments about that factory or any information, then feel free to drop it in the comments. But looking around, there is something really quite interesting. I'm not too sure what that is right there, but there is just like an arch just right the way under the bridge. And look at that. It does look old. I don't know how old this bridge even dates back to, but most of these new concrete bridges were dating back not long ago when it was built. But I do like that is actually quite interesting seeing that little arch there. So whatever that was for is definitely really quite interesting. Let's keep journeying down. Still got a bit of distance to go, but you can just see when going across there is actually more old bridges. It's really bumpy on this section. But there is an old bridge there, look, and that is really rusty. Look at that one. So again, there is much really old stuff down on this BCN mainline. Look at that. Right, so yeah, the canals for me are really interesting because that is actually where all the history dates back. You imagine the 1800s when this canal was actually constructed and the two towpaths being put on opposite side in the 18th century. Well, I mean, imagine all the factories that was along the canal though. I mean, many of them are actually lost today. They've all been destroyed. There's no purpose of them because all our goods today, some of it is actually made abroad. So that's actually why some factories have actually closed down along the canal lines, and it's just left like the way it is today. Still nice views though on the canal, but imagine back then with all that stuff going, coal mines, factories like with chains, steel. A lot of old steel makers have gone, like, you know, Round Oak Steelworks, what I've covered. It's all just gone now. There ain't much really left today. And when I was in Wolverhampton travelling down, there was actually quite a lot of abandoned old factories along the canal line where it looks like industry would have been prosperous back in the day and like loading like wharfs. So that is really quite cool to see that. So I'm actually come up nearly to the section what splits off to the Black Country Museum, just right the way in front. I think it's just at the other side of that bridge. And that is actually the canal line what actually takes you all the way up to the other side of Dudley Port. Right, let's try and get up here. Bear me a minute. Really steep hill, look at this. And that is actually come up to an old like bridge section here as well, look at that. Really glad that this is on this section. Right, let's get down onto it. So yeah, we're on the other side now, the other towpath, because it does cut off from here now. It's only this one side all the way to Coseley. But it does go back onto another towpath, I think, further on, I believe, but only for a short distance. So right, my battery percentage is actually still on 4 bar, which is perfect. I'm just hoping that this will actually get me up to the other end of Coseley, to the other end of the BCN mainline. But this journey, it really does take really long. Then we're doing the trial run, we'll come out at 9 o'clock. and I didn't get to Wolverhampton till like about 12 or 1. It's because I was like trying to get there pedalling and trying to save battery at the same time. But look at this bridge here. I mean, this one is really old because you can tell by the brickwork. Majority of these bricks are really old. There's actually a name on there, let's go and have a look. So I'm trying to see what that is. There is actually a name. Is that actually, don't know actually. Really can't see it because it's really white something. Loom. I don't know if that's actually loom field. I'll have to Google that. Sections. Got the names under like these little brick things. Quite cool. And this wood bit here is really old. Look at that. Old nail in there. So this is actually definitely dating back way back a bit. Bit rusty, and underneath is rusty as well. Look at that. So I was looking at that there, that is abandoned. I don't know whether that's actually an old pumping station or an old section to a factory. Notice it's been boarded up and the roof's actually collapsed on the other side. Notice that on the very last visit, look at that. Because you do get like little like pumping stations similar to Blower Green down on the canal lines, and that actually passes water from the next section to the lower section. But I could be wrong, it might just be in the very old factory what was there many years ago. Right, and just in front, maybe a moment, can just see, come up here, this is actually factory top lock. So looking at factory top lock, it's making me think that is definitely probably an old factory. I mean, the roof is quite cool, there is some really old things sticking out. Could be. Let me know if you know what that is at factory top lock, if you know. Well, that's quite cool seeing that. And this is actually now the section from the BCN main what splits off to the Dudley Tunnel section. So that now will go all the way to the Black Country Museum on the left and straight through to the limestone mines, or you can turn back down to Netherton Tunnel on another split off section from there. But right, let's go and make our way to Coseley. It's only literally round the corner now. Not really too far to go. Right, you can just see industry right there, look. That industry over there, I don't know what it is. But look how flat the land is over there. I'm actually all demolishing it, look, making it more flatter. It might be houses over there in the future. And I can just see remains of like the old bits over there, look. Quite cool. So right, Coseley is an interesting place because the tunnel was actually built for a purpose straight all the way through. There was something that I've read online, and we'll see if I can find it. But it's actually not too far, it's only literally round the corner in a little bit. But you can just see them actually passing that industry in a minute. Nice smoke travelling from there, that's what would have actually been going on back in the old days. Smoke travelling from factories like that, that's a really good example. But they've stopped much of the factories like that today because of the pollution. And that's what they was actually blaming it on, all that smoke is causing like effects in the atmosphere. But imagine thousands of them across the Black Country going, but deeper smoke with coal mines. You imagine how dark it would have been with that going, all the fog. Well, that's quite cool seeing some of the industry going, look. Oh wow, cormorant. Seen a lot of them across the canal, them like herons, they eat more like fish out the canals and waters. So there is definitely a lot of wildlife, seen quite a lot of moor hens, and there was a heron just behind me once more. So right, I think I'm close. It's only around this corner after this big bridge. I will show you underneath it. I think this bridge is really old as well, it's really tall up. But you can actually go to Wolverhampton on the right on the bike apparently. It uncuts the tunnel, but I think it will go over like past Thousand Estates roads. We don't want to do that. But you can say Wolverhampton, 4.5 miles. Look at the difference compared to 7 miles from where I was. Have a quick zoom in, look at that. And Wolverhampton avoiding the tunnel. That way, look how far Birmingham is, look at that distance of that. Suppose on bike it doesn't take long, but imagine walking from Wolverhampton city centre all the way to Birmingham. So you can just see the distance of this canal from here is 8.5 miles. Wow. So right, just before Coseley, I will give you an insight on the BCN in the old days. I will show you now, recapping some very old photos of the canal and so forth. So enjoy the cinematics that I have for you and enjoy the pictures. The pictures are really quite cool seeing the old days and what the canal line was actually like altogether and some of the industry. So I hope you've enjoyed the cinematics, really quite cool seeing some of the old stuff back in the old days from photo wise, but I was actually correct. So I do know my bridge is from brick because the old brick dates back quite a bit, so let's zoom in and quickly show you. But look up there, the date of that is actually 1883. It's really tall. Look at the distance of that from the ground from there to the canal. That is a really tall bridge. That is really quite, I think it is a road above there. But it's quite cool seeing the old date. It's actually chipping off and coming off the wall from up there. But I don't know what the name of this bridge is actually, because it's actually faded really out. So that's old as well. Let's go and have a look at the other side of it. So right, it's actually a Walbrook Bridge. Looking right underneath it from above. Tall, look that is. A lot of nature trying to take back of it from this side, with buddleias growing out. Let's have a look from up here. Look at the old like steel thing here, look. But look at that, it looks like a train bridge or a tunnel bridge from here. Look at that. Wow, cannot see the top of there, but it does say 1883. Right, quite interesting. So let's go now and make our way to Coseley Tunnel. Let's talk to you about Coseley Tunnel in general, a bit of history, and then we'll go and take a look all the way through it. So here we are, Coseley Tunnel. This is actually one of my favourite tunnels as well. Been down here quite a lot of times. Mysteries down here as well. You had Hannah Johnson Cox. He actually murdered a child at the entrance to the room, wrapped him up in an apron and thrown him in the canal. She was later found guilty and sent to an asylum from the history online. Look that up, that is really quite interesting. But let's now take a look at a bit of history of Coseley and the tunnel section itself. So here we are, there's a bit of information here. So the Birmingham to Wolverhampton Canal was cut in 1769 and 62. Wow, that is going back beyond the 1800s from the history earlier. by the engineer James Brindley. Now James Brindley engineered most of the canal lines up to Kidderminster as well. Seen some Kidderminster stuff down there by the church, by the canal line, just so as you get into the Weaver's Wharf by where the place is down there. And it just say here, so the engineer James Brindley followed the land's natural contours. This original course was consequently quite winding and lay to the east to the present route, so now we're coming to Thomas Telford now. Subsequently, Thomas Telford was engaged to improve the canal using straight routes wherever possible. The canal, and it's still navigable today, gave a shorter journey than the original, went close to the key industrial works and included a number of cutting projects. So as you just said earlier, down there, what I mentioned is old industry being along the canal line. That's actually why this canal was actually here back then. So Telford's bold suggestions included deep cutting through Coseley. Thankfully this option wasn't pursued and the tunnel was constructed instead. The approaches to a tunnel were cut by 1829 and the underground construction carried out during 1835. In 1837, the 360 yards long, 329 metre tunnel with a towpath on each side opened. Now both the North Portal in Ivy House Lane and the South Portal in School Street are Grade 2 listed. Whilst this tunnel is actually Grade 2 listed, really old. So it says industrial traffic was given way to leisure transport on the Birmingham Canal, Wolverhampton level. So we are on the Wolverhampton level now. So that's basically the history of the tunnel. Really quite interesting to see the deep cutting through here. Let's go and take a look. So as you can just see from the distance where I am, it's only short, it isn't really that big, and going through it, it is a bit dark halfway. Short distance, but it looks like it's far from here, but it really isn't. So let's go and bike away through and I will show you the inside of the tunnel. So right, the floor is very old as well. It's like this cobbledy stone, and it goes all the way through the tunnel. Unlike Netherton Tunnel, what I went through, I'm guessing Netherton Tunnel would have been like this, but over time, you know, most of it gets covered with soil, dirt. So if I just quickly get my torch on to show you, bear me 1 minute. Let's get a torch down, you can just see the floor, look. The cobbledy stone has gone because soil and dirt has filled over it over time. But look at the walls into here, I mean, wow. It's got some of this mouldy silt stuff on the wall, going all the way over. It's very wide of a Netherton Tunnel, it goes so much higher up. But look at that. It gives me the vibes of being in Netherton Tunnel. But supposedly the history of this place actually dates back to the 1800s. You imagine how long it took to construct this tunnel. It probably took ages back in them days though, because it was all constructed by hand. But there wasn't the machines like what we've got today to build something like this. But suppose if you as well, with the history of the Hannah Johnson Cox murders, this tunnel is supposed to be really haunted apparently, according to locals and according to online resources. It does look like a bit gloomy in here because it is getting darker. But going all the way through, yeah, it is pretty creepy than Netherton Tunnel. I can't see the ceiling now. But wow, it is really quite cool seeing this. So let's go and make our way out, but look at that, 100 metres in. And the floor was actually started to appear again. Very cobbledy. So what I want to show you quickly, I'm nearly out the tunnel. We look at the wall. This wall isn't straight in a line. So I've just noticed that when I come down, it looks like the wall's bending outwards. It does that in Netherton Tunnel, not a certain section. But looking again, yeah, that is not straight, it's actually bending through. So right, really glad to be out of there. That's actually the other side of Coseley Tunnel, look at that. Really quite cool to see that section. It's like metal-like things onto there, old supports. But I think it was actually this bit where Hannah Johnson Cox actually murdered a child and put him in the canal. But yeah, interesting to see that. I'm glad to talk about the history of it. But inside there, it is quite creepy because I got my light on. I couldn't see the ceiling, I couldn't see the side of me, it was just black. Not like Netherton Tunnel, when I'm going through there, I can see everything basically because it's sort of like narrow a little bit. But that's more wider up Coseley Tunnel. But yeah, a lot of water drips as well. I don't know where the water's coming from, whether there's actually a burst pipe because you can hear it. But let's go and travel on. We're actually now on to the other section now, closer to the Wolverhampton line, where you come into the city centre, so it's not actually really too far now. So right, here we am, back on the straight. Look at this straight going all the way down. Zooming in, you can just see how far it goes off this section of Coseley tunnel. But it does actually bend round, hit about another 1.5 miles down onto it. It'll bend round and go around the canal onto another little bit. So let's just keep going. I will rejoin with you now, so I won't film anymore until I actually get near to where the old factories are, down into the Wolverhampton section. But it is a nice bit of canal down onto this bit now. But I'm going to pretty much ride the rest of it off and see you a little bit to save a little bit of battery. Wow, lovely section this is. Look down there, there is an old barge right around the corner. It's really quite cool to see that. But look in there, look at the black smoke, what's onto there? Look at that coming out. So there is quite a lot of industry from this section now all the way down, and there is some old remains. So let's just keep journeying on and see if we can actually make our way to. So right, I didn't even realise this last time, there is a split off. I'm going to do that one in a couple of months, so I will come back down and see what's down there. So that way actually leads to Bilston and Bradley. I don't know whether that actually leads to the Wednesbury Canal, which goes all the way down the back, or it cuts off, I really don't know. But you can just see industry there, industry over there, and look at the pylons. So here we am, just at the train pass. This is actually called Black Country Route. Look all the graffiti over there on the other side. Look at that. Actually, I was wrong. I think it's just like one of them dual carriageways just above. Don't think it's what I mentioned, because it would sound more busier if it was a motorway. Could be wrong, I really don't know because I can't see the top of it. But I think it's just a dual carriageway. But look at the look behind with the bridge. Look down there. Really nice view, look. You can just see one of the old bridges onto that corner from where I come from. A lot of moor hens and coots down on this section. So many of them. So yeah, really nice down here. The reason why I love this, it's like you're going in countryside. It's just completely surrounded with trees, industry over there. Down on the bottom here somewhere, I'll try and find where it is. I know there was like an old foundry onto the corner, so it actually did meet up to the side of the canal. I was actually told by a local that it was a foundry back in the past. So a lot of pig iron was actually found by a magnet fisher in the canal, so much of it. So that tells there was quite a lot of industry down here. Zooming in, look at that. There is industry over there onto the corner, look. Well, and this is actually still that the line that runs from all the way down there, the train line thing. Still joining by the side of me, so it's gonna, that follows quite a distance. So yeah, quite a lot of bridges down here now. Like I mentioned, industry. Can just see there, look, old industry buildings, and there would have been some stuff on this side, I think. Wow, I wonder what that was for. Next to Springvale Rail Bridge. Don't know actually. Maybe there would have been something that went across there many years ago, by the looks of it. Next to where that train line is there. That is, it says there, I don't know what it is, Birmingham Canal at Coseley, Rail Authority. I don't think we're actually in Coseley, look, it says there, Coseley. Coseley's like 1.5 miles away behind me, so I have come a bit of a distance away from it. But looking on the side here, look at this. I noticed this for the very last time. I don't know whether that actually went in to like a little underground facility thing, like a storage thing over there. It's been bricked in though, and there was something on this side. Have a quick look. Look at that. I mean, that's similar. So I don't know what that was actually used for. Or is it just an old bridge to another side where possibly an old factory was many years ago? Can just see the very old barriers on that side, look. Could be factory. But I think if I just go further down, there is actually more. Just gonna have a quick look. Yeah, it's been demolished. You can just see the old rail that's come off the side over onto there. Would have been a very big factory. It's not there no more. But I think they demolished it. I don't know what's over in the distance onto there, whether it's just flat land. Really don't know. But that's evidence of a factory, and evidence of a factory being here though, because there is an old bridge there where that bridge would have gone over to the other side, onto that corner. So right, this is actually the section now. Let's get a bit of power on my battery to get a bit further on. This is actually where there was an old foundry, but they built like houses like on top of it now. You can just see right there a new housing estate. And I was told by a local, he was actually magnet fishing the canal and found a lot of pig iron just on the side down onto here. He got so much out, and told me the foundry used to join up to the canal section from where we am right now onto the corners. So it was stretched all the way down there. I think there was some old industry on that side as well onto that corner. Well, quite cool. So I'm actually not too far now from the other sections that I want to get to. So right, I think that actually looks like a very old footbridge. Look at that. Come further down and this is actually what I wanted to show you. So there is quite a lot of industry down here. Let's go and take a look. But coming through it actually reminds me of like, don't know, Round Oak Steelworks, where you look down. You've got all like the factory on the side of the canal. Look at that. It's a big industry there, and I'm guessing many years ago would have been something here, because this housing estate here, what's been built, is actually really quite big. So that's telling me there was definitely some big factory onto there. I mean, going all the way down, you can just see the scale of this housing estate. So how big was the land for this factory that was on here? Really big. Look at that. And there you go, there's actually like one factory there. I don't know whether it's used or... So I didn't hear nothing last time coming past, like banging. But look, there's like a chimney stack on that. That looks really old, look at the chimney stack. Look at that. Really nice to see some of the industry down onto here. And you can just see up there, look at that. Big, I don't know if it's a steelworks. I'm guessing it could be a steelworks or like some sort of metal plant. I mean, it's coming further down, look how big the plant is. And I can see there is smashed windows up there. That's making me think, is that definitely used or not? But even the housing estate's still carrying on, so that's quite big. I have to research what was actually here. I might do that when I get back actually. Might do a bit of research into like what was in Wolverhampton on the canal line on BCN. See what old factories were actually here in the past. It's really good to look up, you find some really interesting stuff. But I really do love seeing factories, like from the sides all the way down. Actually, I was wrong. I think it's just like one of them dual carriageways just above. Don't think it's what I mentioned, because it would sound more busy if it was a motorway. Could be wrong, I really don't know because I can't see the top of it. But I think it's just a dual carriageway. But look at the look behind with the bridge. Look down there. Really nice view, look. You can just see one of the old bridges onto that corner from where I come from. A lot of moor hens and coots down on this section. So many of them. Looking from there, look at that bit there. It's definitely got to be some sort of like steelworks. So I've only just realised we're in Bilston. Have a quick look. Son my engineers, so I'm guessing it's some sort of like steel production thing, or I don't know. I'm going to look that up when I get back to see what's actually local. So I can't believe we're in Bilston, so Wolverhampton's not really too far really, so if I keep on going it shouldn't really take long to get there now. But there is some really cool stuff that I've actually discovered coming down here last time. If I can get to it, I've definitely got to show it you because I'm wondering what it is. It says there it's like a big like outlet thing, Booker, Wolverhampton, so I don't know what that is. What is that? Oh, it's actually an wholesalers. So that's actually giving me an indication we're definitely in Wolverhampton. Well, so I don't think that thing what I want to show you is not actually too far. So I think we'll actually make it down to there. So let's just keep on going and I'll rejoin you now when I get to that like little like loading wharf. Oh, what a bike ride guys. I'm in Wolverhampton. Keep me fit and active today. But here's the interesting part of the canal section that I wanted to show you. Pan around, look at this. What is this place? So you can just see there that there is actually like a loading wharf and a very old light. So spare me 1 second if I just rejoin the video so I can zoom in. So you can just see there, zooming right the way in. Look at that old light. If I just point out where it is, just right here, it looks like a very old, a Victorian light. So I'm guessing this place here dates back way back a bit. Don't know what it possibly could have been used for at all. So if you do know, if you recognise this place, it's near to the Go Outdoors in Wolverhampton and it looks like it may have served a factory, but let's go and have a look. If I leave my bike there a second, look at this from the side. You can just see there is like an old crane thing here, look, and that would actually loaded stuff and dragged it from the bottom. I think there's like a crane on there, but that is actually on wheels, so that would have actually gone from section to section. But I think the wharf itself is old because of that light. That is a really old light. I don't know if that would have actually been gaslit. It looks gaslit light to me. But that is really quite a cool scene. That. So as I mentioned, you get quite a lot of old industry along the canal lines, and Wolverhampton is pretty much the best place to come for dereliction, because just right behind me, if I zoom in, is even more abandoned factories. Can just see one peeking right the way there near to the city centre. That is an old derelict. I think I'm going to knock it down. It's been there that for many years. But it's quite cool, Wolverhampton, where the BCN actually nearly ends. You see there, you've got the outlets over there, look. Never been up here, might have to come up here and have a look at the outlets in the town one day. It's on my list to do. But looking down onto here, can see the canal line. I mean, the colour of the water's actually changed as we come into the city centre. It's more of like a darker colour now, but it's still clear. That's what's quite cool. It's been clear since I've got here. But seeing that is just so cool. Can't believe I actually noticed that on my last trip. Wow. So thank you very much for watching Exploring the Black Country. It's been an interesting one today. Really enjoyed coming to Wolverhampton on the bike, looking at some little stuff, Coseley, bits of history for you. Different section of the BCN, so I've covered the BCN main line from this section now. The only one that I've got to do is all the way to Birmingham city centre, covering much more history, because that is actually where most of the history actually pokes out up there. So yeah, see you soon. See you in the next walking video. I'm going to be walking in the next one. I think it's going to be a walk to Dowry Dell, covering a bit of Alzo in train line history, so I can't wait to get out and film that one. But yeah, see you soon. Take care. If you're new, subscribe, much appreciated. See you soon. The Midlands Outdoors out.